If you're struggling in your marriage and you're having a hardship, a lot of times the confrontations that you're having are happening because you're trying to get your point across and your partner isn't understanding, or you feel like if I hear, I'm going to miss out on being able to get my point across, and then they're going to say something and I'm going to lose the argument. And while those words, I'm going to lose the argument, isn't necessarily on your mind, that's actually what the thought process is. And so as that's happening, all you're doing is ripping your relationship apart. You're disconnecting. You're not hearing, you're not seeing each other. And the one key for us to be able to flip that around is called empathy. And so we're going to be discussing empathy today and really break it down so that you have a chance to understand what empathy is, how to use it, and the difference that it will make inside of your relationship. All right, empathy in marriage, the heart of emotional connection. We're continuing in our series about our emotional intelligence in our relationships. Empathy in your relationship is going to be a big deal because being able to understand what's going on with your partner helps you to feel connected and closer to each other, and takes away some of the ideas of we're against each other. If I feel like somebody understands what's going on the inside of me, then it's going to help me to know that they're on my team, or that they even care what's going on the inside of me. So what is empathy? If we can first define the difference between empathy and sympathy. Feeling sorry for somebody is more like the idea of sympathy. Empathy is really being able to understand what is going on the inside of somebody and where it comes from, without the need to have to agree or disagree, but to really see that individual. And so if we're doing empathy, then our relationship connection starts deepening because we're trusting that that's the part of each other that we're seeing. So I present any way that emotionally comes to me in a moment, and I can trust in my relationship that that's not the culture that we've built. We both understand that there's something else going on, and we're looking out for each other in that way. And so being able to put empathetic interactions inside of your relationship is going to help you guys to deepen emotional connection and also build trust. So why does it even matter in your marriage? And probably with us just developing a little bit of understanding, you probably understand a little bit more about why it actually matters. But the conflicts and the misunderstandings that happen whenever you are just fighting about how somebody presented something or the mistake that somebody made is one opportunity for us to see things, right? It's one way for us to constantly be picking at each other. But what if you didn't just see the conflicts and misunderstandings that you're having? What if you actually saw more of what the person was experiencing, or what their past is, what they've been through in their relationships, what their hardships are now, what it is that they're looking at? If you understood a little bit more about what was going on underneath whatever they're presenting, then there's going to be a whole lot of reduction in conflicts and misunderstandings. And I think that's going to be useful in your marriage, and that makes it a whole lot more important to us. So just as an example, in therapy, we're constantly trying to redefine and look at different scenarios and understand what's going on to help inform the way that we feel about things and ultimately the way that we interact. And imagine if in your relationship you could do that same thing, where you understand better what's going on, and it helps you inform what that scenario is. And so because it helps to inform what that scenario is, you don't feel the same kind of misdirection or hardship that you were feeling whenever you weren't having empathy towards your partner. So it's really helpful to reduce arguments and can transform the relationship. So how do you develop empathy? And this is probably different than the way that most people will develop empathy. The way that you are going to develop empathy is you listen to what's underneath what's being presented. And so a key thing for that is we only fight about three things: significance, control, and abandonment. So you're not looking for the deficits of your partner, you're just looking for understanding your partner. And so separating out those two things are a big deal. So you're not looking for their deficit. My partner's just being a control freak, or my partner has abandonment issues, or my partner is whatever, wants to be the queen of the castle. Whatever that scenario is, you're not looking for that deficit. Instead, you're really trying to look for where this is coming from. And a good way to, if you can't automatically see that, a good way to be able to figure that out is to ask questions that are open-ended and don't have assumptions related to them. And so the more you can ask those kinds of questions, it's going to be really helpful to seeing more of what your partner has going on underneath. And then you want to try to validate. And I think this is part of letting your partner know that you have empathy, or that empathy is inside of your relationship. That culture of validation, that I get where your feelings are coming from. I might not totally understand because I haven't been in that situation, but I get it, and I don't necessarily need you to change. And I want to work towards being able to build up something else so we don't have this conversation, right? So just being able to really validate what those feelings are is a huge deal. And so an internal way of being able to do this is try to put yourself in the shoes of your partner. Imagine, had you gone through all the things that your partner has gone through, what would your experiences be, and how would you be interacting now? Right. And if you can really sit down and maybe journal that or think about that, I think it's going to give you some valid ideas for ways to approach, but then also it's going to help you to develop a sense of empathy. So, and it's constant that we're working with couples that have situations where just a little bit of empathy and aiming towards that instead of solving the argument will help their relationship. And obviously I can't go into all my clients' informations about those scenarios, but to be helpful to you, I want you to know that it definitely happens if you can shift your focus over to finding a way to empathize with your partner versus finding a way to win the argument. All right. So if you could switch that in your mind, it's not about me winning this argument. It's really about me finding a way to be empathetic and understanding more about what my partner is doing. And so those instances where we're successful, that's a huge shift that gets made. And so what can you do? How do you actually exercise this, or how do you get to a point of getting to the emotional gym, so to speak? Gratitude really helps your vision. And so we'll always talk about gratitude, because gratitude puts your heart and your mind in the right spot. And if the more you do it, those will be your looks. And so if you two can do this together, it helps us to see each other in a different kind of way. So if each partner could share something that they're grateful about the other person, it's going to really start building on that concept of softening up a little bit and being able to come together versus being enemies. And then it's always a fun activity. Maybe in some cases it won't be fun, but it's always a fun activity if you could do role reversal. And in the role reversal, you're actually going to argue what your partner is trying to argue towards you. And there's nothing like trying to argue something like that. And there could be some fun with it, but ultimately, I think it helps you to really start gaining perspective, because you think from their viewpoint to protect what it is that you're arguing about. And then finally, another thing is, I think you could also do some empathy journaling. And so if you could just reflect on moments where empathy was or could have been beneficial to you, that starts growing your idea that you're probably, one, using it more often than you recognize. And also, I think you're going to realize that how beneficial it is, right? You're going to start seeing that it's connected to some good things that are happening inside of your relationship. So as a recap, our empathy in our marriage is going to change everything, because we're not going to just be looking at the tip of the iceberg and arguing about what's being presented. Instead, we get a chance to really have a conversation about some of the underlying pieces and get closer together. That connection that you create whenever you really understand each other, or each of you feels like you understand each other, man, there's no stopping that relationship. And so I want you guys to practice those exercises that we talked about earlier. Put it in the chat and let me know how that went for you. Also, if you want to keep learning about this, we'll put out our next video soon for this same series. You want to keep learning about these kinds of topics that will help your marriage. Subscribe to our channel, and then also share with your friends, because as you guys are getting better at your friends around you, you guys can all have the same kind of conversation and build these concepts inside. So our marriage communication masterclass actually helps you to start deepening these insights that we're talking about. You spend 3 hours with me discussing the buildup of how do I actually get to being able to do this on a regular basis. And so you'll see, if you click in our link, you can get signed up today and start in our next class with us. All right. We will talk to you guys soon, and enjoy your day.